Has it happened to you that you see a woman that you find extremely beautiful and attractive, yet you don't know what to say, and you start to run some imaginary conversation in your head that you would have with her about what you would say, how she would respond, and how everything would play out, but you're worried about what could happen and how she would react and what other people would think of you, and you start to do a lot of overthinking, and eventually you end up deciding to not say anything at all. In fact, maybe it's a girl at your local gym or the grocery store or at work, whatever, a girl that you see often, and the days go by, the weeks, the months, and it feels like there's this barrier that's growing as more time goes on that makes it even harder and harder and harder to even attempt to start a conversation. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. If all of this sounds familiar, this video is for you, because I think a lot of men perceive beautiful women as these mythical creatures that they don't know how to interact with. So let me give you a few solutions and a way in which you can conceptualize the whole thing. So let's make this fun and let's put levels of difficulty when it comes to engaging with people. And let's say that for you, extremely beautiful women, it's like level 3 of difficulty, you know, the highest. And then we're going to analyze level 2 of difficulty and level 1, because very often in life, the way we should do things that are easy are actually the same way in which we would do them if they're hard. But when they're hard, we panic, we overthink everything, and we forget the fundamentals, but it's all basically the same. So let's go to the lower levels so we can extract lessons from it that we can then apply to level 3. So when it comes to engaging with people, I would say level 2 of difficulty would be to talk with a girl that you do not find attractive, which you've probably done in the past and you've realized that it was way easier. Now, by the way, this photo of this girl, I just found it on Google. I just looked for average looking woman and this showed up. I don't know who this person is, no disrespect. It's just, this is what Google showed me. And same with these girls. Like, I just typed most beautiful Swedish women because I believe Swedish women are some of the most beautiful women on earth. But no disrespect, I have no idea who these people are, okay? These are just Google's results. So I'm sure you've had conversations in the past with women that you were not really attracted to, and you had actually amazing conversations with them, and you thought to yourself like, man, if only I could replicate this level of conversations with actually women that I like, that would be amazing. And very often the situation in which this happens to people is, think about a time in your life, maybe you were with your group of friends and you were also with some other groups of people, you know, when you do maybe a barbecue or a party or something, or maybe at work or school, whatever. And then obviously there's gonna be girls that you find attractive and girls that you do not find attractive. Yet what ends up happening to a lot of guys is that when they're in these situations, they only end up talking to the girls that they actually don't like. Now, there's two reasons as to why this happens. First of all, is because they believe they're like warming up, like they're building momentum, so that then once they're warm and they got a little bit loose, they can then try to go speak to the beautiful ones. But what I see that happens like 90% of the time is that this does not end up happening, right? They only stay talking with the ones that they don't like because they don't actually have the courage to go and make the moves, which leads to the second reason why this happens, which I would say is just cope, so that they at least have an excuse as to why they were not talking with these girls. It's like, no, well, I was talking with this one, we were having a nice conversation, whatever, but deep down what this guy wanted was to go for this girl. But still, regardless of why this is happening, it actually doesn't matter. What we have to think is, why is it easier? That's the interesting question. Even though you're lying to yourself and you're making excuses and you're just warming up and all of this crap, you're still talking to these girls. So what is the difference here? The big thing is that you are not invested in the outcome. You just don't want it. You don't care. So there's no pressure about anything happening with her. And this is the first lesson. Like, the reason why a lot of guys don't try with level 3 girls, if that's what we could call it, is because they're thinking so much about the outcome. They want to talk with them, but the only thing they can think of is having sex with them. But the problem is that since that is the only thing they can conceptualize, so if we're here at point A and this is the start of the conversation and this is point B, the end of it, which would be, well, we could actually call it point S for sex, then you have to go on this journey in which there's a series of steps in which eventually you end up having sex with this girl, or it can be whatever, starting a relationship, I don't care, going on a date, getting the number, whatever the outcome that you want is. But since they're so focused here and so invested in it, they cannot even start. You don't need to know how you're gonna end up here, you just need to start the convo. And a way to do that is to forget in a way about the destination, in a way to not care about the sex. Which, don't get confused, this doesn't mean that you don't want it or the relationship or whatever, but it just means that you forget about it so you can focus on the present moment, because that's actually what is required for you to have good conversations. Also, you will not come off as needy, because women have really strong intuitions when it comes to this. And if you're super invested on a specific outcome, whether it's a date, getting a number, sex, relationship, they can smell that from a mile away if you're desperate about it and it's not that attractive. And by the way, this happens with everything in life. People who are desperate for money, people who are desperate for friends, people who are desperate for whatever it is. I'm sure you can think of examples in your life of people who were desperate for something and they were pretty annoying about it, very needy, and in a way it puts you off. So for women with guys, it's the exact same thing. So you just have to balance it out. It's this concept of like, in a way you care, but at the same time you don't care. So that's the lesson from level 2. And now let's go to level 1, which is actually talking to a guy. Okay, maybe it's a guy that you met recently, or maybe it's an old friend. And think about how you engage in this kind of relationship. These are probably your best conversations, the 10 out of 10 conversations in which you're having the time of your life. You're extremely charming, very charismatic, you're throwing jokes around, and everything is just good overall. But why is that? It is because you are in flow. And the reason why you're in flow is twofold. Yes, first of all, because as before in level 2, you do not care about an outcome, but now you have the added extra layer that you do not even care about judgment from this guy right here. So you can be your true self. You can be quirky, very unique, not afraid to tell your darkest jokes or your weird opinions, which is actually what allows people to connect with you, to realize that you're genuine and you're authentic, and then just vibe. So what we have to do is bring these two lessons. So right here we have no care for judgment, plus not being invested on the outcome. We have to bring both of these into level 3. And the way I practice this in my life, that there was a point in my life in which I did a lot of dating because I wanted to learn about this whole dating world, relationships, women. I also wanted to put in practice a lot of things that I had been reading on psychology for many, many years. And also one of the things that I did and I experimented with, and every time I would push it even further and further and further, was being just extremely authentic, raw, and just literally talk with everyone, especially like with these beautiful girls, as I would talk with an old friend that I've known for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Obviously, you add some things to it. If you're speaking with a girl that you like, you add some flirtiness, some physical touch, etc. But that's about it. At its core, it's all the same. It's when you start treating them as this mythical creature that's when you screw it up. Because honestly, people dramatize so much how you actually get good girls. But I have plenty of personal stories of me just being completely normal just with these two things and being completely raw and authentic and getting pretty nice girls. Now, one extra thing that some of you could do, especially the ones who are really struggling with this, and maybe you cannot even do level 2, is to at least start with befriending them. Why? Because then you'll be used to being around beautiful women. Because I think part of the problem and the issue is also like not being used to it, not being used to having eye contact with beautiful girls and then having them look back at you. And it's funny because I've seen the same effect with broke guys when they meet millionaires for the first time in their life. They react the exact same way when guys who've never been with beautiful girls, they meet a beautiful girl for the first time. It's like they're just in shock in a way, they behave like very weirdly. So at least if you're capable of befriending them, it will work as some form of exposure therapy. Now, a lot of people would be like, oh, but then you're falling into the friend zone. But it's like, come on, who cares? Be smarter than this. There's a lot of women out there. It's okay if you lose one to at least develop the skills and then be able to get more. Because then you'll have the skill and the confidence, you'll be used to it. Heck, even if it's like 5 of them, it doesn't matter. Also, think about this, like be smart, you know? Beautiful girls, usually they hang out with other beautiful women as well, okay? So if you befriend beautiful women, you'll have access to even more beautiful women. Okay, so as a recap, just do not be invested on the outcome. Do not care about judgment, right? Be your quirky and weird you, and then just pure exposure. It's like everything in life, sets and reps. Obviously, there's a lot more to dating and women and relationships and all of this stuff. What I just shared in this video is just a tiny part of it, but that I think it's important and useful. But I will be releasing more videos in the future on these topics, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see them. But for now, that's it, and hopefully I will see you on the next video. Take care. Peace.